Yo, it's the Pre-Lock Show. It's Chief and TJ on a Saturday, yet again, coming to a DFS lineup near you. Once again, I'm Chief, it's TJ, it's Saturday. I'm grateful to be here, folks. TJ is ahead of the game today. We were talking slightly before in pre-show mode. And TJ is ready to roll today, folks. He's cranking out content, he's producing, and in this show, dollar bills, y'all. In this show, we might be looking for some spikes. We've got Double L Tennessee. I think that's it. What's happening? Good to see you, brother. Thank you guys for joining us. I am tracking this game live while we're on the air. I do have my TV on in the office. It is muted, but I'm trying to just make sure, TJ, I keep a pulse on the Baltimore Steelers weather. According to our illustrious weatherman, Kevin Roth, this game is supposed to be pretty windy, have some nice wind gusts, and then even outside of that, we're also supposed to see some type of precipitation, possibly both, which is rain and snow, specifically, not necessarily hail or anything like that. So I'm absolutely hoping this game does what it's supposed to do because, in the pick'em streets, I did decide to roll some unders because of the weather, because of some of the projections. So we will see what happens. TJ, we're going to hop right in this thing. We've got, a little less than 30 minutes before lock. A little less than 30 minutes, so I think we'll be able to get through it pretty efficiently. My question to you is, TJ, it looks like in terms of the two-game slate, this is specifically the two-game slate, folks, at quarterback, man, the ownership seems to be gravitating to C.J. Stroud, I think for good reason. He's got the little dots all over the place. Core play, expert play, dots galore. People are looking to get C.J. Stroud in their lineups. Where are you kind of landed here? I do think Stroud is probably the best option at quarterback, but where are you landing in terms of how you want to get your Bills done today?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking to, in tournaments, pivot away from the Stroud chalk and basically just in my builds, I'm playing 20 lineups and just swap the Gardner Minshew and CJ Stroud ownership. I'm trying to get like about 50 to 60% Minshew and then about 25% Stroud today. I think those ownerships should be flipped, and that's why I feel so confident about doing that. In my single entry, I got Gardner Minshew in it. So he's my top option for tournaments at half the ownership of CJ Stroud today, maybe a little bit more than half, maybe a little bit less. We'll see what it comes in at. Small slates are so hard to actually project the ownership properly. And so I'm going with Minshew as my main guy today. Stroud is my second highest owned quarterback, but I have Huntley is closer to Stroud on my exposures than Stroud is to Minshew.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. So I am, and folks, once again, like I told you, I am tracking it. Hey, it's pouring down right now. I mean, they got the rain jackets on. Harbaugh's got the hoodie over the hat. Definitely raining. TJ, I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I hope it stays like this the whole game. I don't want the Steelers and Ravens throwing the ball around at all. Just keep handing it off like it's 1948. Just keep handing the ball off, and I think we'll be fine here. So let's get this game out of the way, TJ, because what I want to ask you is, do you like anything in this game? Because I do think, if we're going to take it down, we probably need a piece or two, TJ. I have a theory about it, and I think that's where we're all going to land. But I think people are going to get exposure to this game through the running game. I think that's where most are going to plant their flag with Najee and with Warren. What are your thoughts, and how do you plan to get exposure to this game? We've even got what I would call pretty nice ownership on even Melvin Gordon, which I think is reasonable considering they're sitting a lot of guys. So I think the running game is going to be where people get exposure to this game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the running game is going to be mostly where people are diving in here for their lineups. And the defenses, right? Like both the Pittsburgh defense and Ravens defense, I think are probably going to be the two more popular options on the slate. Ravens are my favorite defense on the slate. I got them in my single entry. In my MME, I'm basically just splitting them out evenly. But getting back to QB here, I do think and then just like the general strategy of the game, I do think the exposure most people will get to is the running game. Warren and Najee are my two favorite options. I think you can play them together, especially if you're running a Pittsburgh defense team. But those are my two favorite ones. And then I'm honestly good with playing both Justice Hill and Melvin Gordon in this spot. Gordon probably ends up seeing a few more touches, but I think Justice Hill can be plopped in some GPP builds as well.
Absolutely. I don't mind that call at all. I'm probably going to be a lot heavier Najee Harris than most in the field, TJ. Right now we got Najee at 26%, but we've really seen them down the stretch, TJ, show a willingness to give Najee the bulk of the carries. I'm saying in spots like this. So I'm pretty excited about seeing Najee Harris at 5,600 at 28%, where Devin Singletary is 55%. I'm loving that. Najee's one of my favorite plays on this slate, period. So I like him a ton, TJ, and that's where I think I'm going to get very interested in this particular game. Let's move to wide receivers here. Do you like any of the wide receivers in this game? I'm not thrilled about the wide receivers. I feel like all of the passing needs to come from the other game. And I see we've got some questions about this. I know Matt has asked about Bateman or Aguilar. I just don't know if they're going to throw the ball enough to get us there, TJ. It feels very yucky to me to be trying to get exposure to the passing games here. What are your thoughts?
So in large field stuff, I think it's super interesting just because it's a 2-game slate. Anything can happen, and they're going to be far lower owned than these other guys. The tough thing, and I do think this is one of the toughest questions on the slate, is how much do Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar play, or how much do Laquan Treadwell and Tylan Wallace play? Because we really don't know. It does feel weird with Bateman being one of their starters that they'd want to run him out there too much, but you never know. They only have 5 total receivers active in this game, and one of them is also their backup quarterback. And so Bateman and Aguilar should actually still get some run in this spot, I think. So I do find them interesting for large field tournaments. I built some lineups that just are leaving a ton of salary on the table and are Huntley stacks with 2 of his receivers. I did one that have Bateman and Aguilar together. I have one that has Kolar, the tight end. I have one that has Wallace and Treadwell together. And I'm just going to see if it works because, rainy game, DVs can slip. You can get 50-yard bombs popping up easier than a lot of people think in these sometimes. And so I wouldn't touch them for cash games, single entry, optimal stuff. But for large field, I do think you can take some shots.
Understood. Totally get it. All right, TJ, let's talk about this slate overall. We've kind of tried to get through with this game here. It is a little yucky out there, folks. Once again, I am trying to monitor that and just see, does the precipitation keep going, TJ? Because there's supposed to be wind and precipitation in this game. So I'm trying to see, is it going to keep going? Looks like it's still coming down as of right now. Could slow up some, but I'm hoping it continues. So in terms of overall strategy, what I think most are going to do, TJ, is I think the field, and let's talk about the field. I think the field is going to plug in CJ Stroud. I think the field is also going to immediately plug in Nico Collins. And then I think they're going to some form of Pittman, Downs, something like that. I think we're going to see a lot of Baltimore Ravens defense, TJ. I think we're going to see Ravens defense in the defensive position, and then at running back, as it has told us, looks like we're going to see plenty of Devin Singletary. So for what it's looking like, TJ, it looks like there's going to be some form of let's call it a Houston onslaught. Stroud, Singletary, Collins. I think if you're getting a little different in any of those 3 in terms of that, and then Ravens defense, if you're getting a little different in any form of those 4 combinations, that might be enough today. Steelers defense, is actually the highest on. Sorry about that. I said Ravens. Steelers at 3,100 are coming in around 37%. So that's where most are planning their flex. So if you're just kind of thinking about it, that looks like what people are trying to do. They're trying to get in Stroud, Singletary, Collins, running the Steelers, and then they're building around those. TJ, anything spicy you want to use to get a little bit different in that spot?
At the defense?
No. In terms of those 4 players in that build,
that
seems to
specific
be
build.
The chalk. Yeah, that seems to be kind of the chalk, right? Like Stroud, Singletary, Collins, Steelers defense. That feels like the chalk to me. Anything you want to do to differentiate, and I know you've already talked about your differentiator is probably Gardner Minshew, but anything else you want to use to kind of say, okay, let's look at a slightly different outcome here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Minshew is going to be my main one. So, this is the lineup build that I'm looking to try and get to as much as possible. Now, again, I would have one of these 2 guys in the flex position because they're later, and I'm going to end up playing one of the running backs from the other game. But easy pivot to 11% lower owned, projected to go to the Ravens instead. This is how I'd want to make sure I'm starting off my single entry style lineups where I'm just making a small difference, not a big one. Gardner Minshew instead of CJ Stroud. I still want to play Singletary and Taylor. I still want to play Pittman and Collins, but then I'm choosing between one of these Ravens or Baltimore running backs as my last spot. And then I'm going to either Schultz, Kolar, or Granson probably as my top 3 tight ends. Freiermuth would be the one I am looking to fade the most. Schultz is definitely the best, but 50% owned, might even come higher than that. All it takes is your cheap tight end to score a touchdown. Ali Cox could do that. Mallory could do that. Jordan could do that. Granson could do that. Kolar could do that. I'm fine with any of these guys. I'm fading Isaiah Likely outright with I do actually, that's not true. I made one full stack, I think, with Tyler Huntley, Isaiah Likely, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, just in case they treated as hey, everybody that's playing and starting, well, no, you're actually going out there and playing and starting today. But I can't imagine Isaiah Likely gets that many snaps with Mark Andrews down for the season. So out of all those other teams, I'm fading him. And Kyle Granson is probably my favorite guy to go to here for tournaments. Everybody's going Stroud and Schultz. I'll play the same almost optimal team, but I'll go Gardner Minshew and Kyle Granson instead.
Understood. For me, TJ, I think one of my differentiators in this particular game, as I kind of look over everything, I love the Gardner Minshew call. When I look at the wide receiver position, I don't think Josh Downs is getting enough ownership today. I mean, he's at 32%. And I want you to think about it this way. He's at 32. George Pickens is at 48 in a rain game, TJ, in a weather game. I don't think Josh Downs getting enough ownership. I think he's a big differentiator because if they're behind in this game at any point, TJ, and I anticipate them to actually be behind, Gardner Minshew is going to have to air this thing out if they want to come out of here with a win. So I'm very interested in upping my Josh Downs. I'd love to swap in terms of the ownership where Pickens is at 48, pushing 50, and Downs is at 32. I'm more than comfortable saying, give me George Pickens at 25%, give me Josh Downs at 55%. I think Josh Downs is a big difference maker here. And then I think another differentiator is Alec Pierce. Once again, you see I'm high on the Colts passing game. He's 4,300. Look, the projections aren't going to say it's great, but he's only at 14%, TJ. And if they have to air this thing out down the stretch, I think the likes of Pierce and Downs could really pay off big dividends on a 2-game slate. How do you like those 2 guys? I know you play Minshew, but how do you like those 2, let's call them value pieces in the passing game?
Absolutely love it. I'm with you today as well. If I go to my receiver exposure, this is my 20 lineup build that I did. Every single one has Nico Collins and Michael Pittman. This Robert Woods questionable is kind of we don't know he's going to play for sure, right? Because he's going to be low owned. If he does play, I want to get overweight. But if he doesn't, I'm going to get a lot more John Mechie, Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce. I'm with you. These are all guys I want to be either over the field on or above. They're like kind of at the even rates in my MME build, but that's because I have them both on my, or I have at least one of them in each of my Minshew lineups.
Love it. And once again, like I said, I'm with you 100% with that. All right. In terms of the overall, my theme of this particular slate, folks, is I think we need to build with some slight correlation in this one. So like if I'm playing, and I know correlation is the obvious thing, but sometimes we overlook the obvious when prices are kind of weird and it's a 2-game slate. Sometimes we just don't think about it. Sometimes we come up with some natural correlations, TJ. But for me, here's what I think. I think if you're going to go with the chalk build of Stroud, Singletary, Collins, that I think for me in the Steelers defense, I'm going with Najee Harris at running back. I'm going to fade Michael Pittman. Hear me out, TJ. I don't think that's something people want to do. Michael Pittman's one of the highest owned spots in the slate. I would fade Pittman, play downs, double down on the Texas passing game, and let's start leaving some salary on the table. That would be my opportunity, if you will, to kind of get different. I'm not saying Josh Downs is better than Michael Pittman. Do I think Michael Pittman gets more opportunities than Josh Downs? I do, TJ. But when we're talking about trying to take down a GPP on a 2-gamer, we've got to make some tough decisions in some lineups, TJ. Now, I'm not advocating that you fade Michael Pittman completely. I don't think that's wise at all. But I think in some lineups, you might be able to get away with it. And then we did have I think I saw a random question about Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon is going to get some work. Like, I don't see why they would be playing Gus the Bus and Justice Hill, and because they've already lost Keaton Mitchell, I don't see why they would be playing some of their main running backs big minutes. I mean big snap count, TJ. I think this is the Melvin Gordon show as much as he can handle. What are your thoughts there?
I almost kind of think what they're going to end up doing is Justice Hill starts just kind of maintains his role. Melvin Gordon becomes Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill maintains being Justice Hill. So he's the third down back. He'll go out there in passing downs. He might get a couple carries, and then Gordon gets the bulk of the carries on first and second down, and he also gets the goal line work. That's kind of how I'm imagining this one goes.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Man, weird spot here for their running game. And guess what? We're saying that, and Gus the Bus could absolutely come out here and rush for 50 yards and a touchdown. Like that's in the cards as well. But I'm hoping they hold back Gus the Bus today because of their playoff situation. So
I see Blake asking about FanDuel in chat. It's basically the exact same on both of these sites today. The one in terms of like strategy and like the guys we're targeting. For me personally, for large field tournaments, I think the best thing you can do is get off of CJ Stroud at 50%, play either Minshew or Tyler Huntley. Huntley, like they might score 10 points, but he could still have 50 rushing yards and end up being the optimal quarterback today because he's a running QB. And so Huntley or Minshew are the two guys I'd want to go with. Minshew would be my preference in a single entry. Huntley in large field stuff I like getting to. At the running back position, it's still Jonathan Taylor and Devin Singletary as your 1A and 1B here. But Najee Harris makes for a great tournament play. Jaylen Warren at 6K, that value is fantastic. And you do still have Justice Hill and Melvin Gordon you can go with as well. Same guys as DraftKings, no different. Hill and Taylor and Singletary are the targets. Any of these guys from the first game that fit into your lineups are totally fine as well. The biggest difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, I'd say, is the Pickens and the Johnsons. They are very close in price to Nico Collins and Michael Pittman. So, like, I would have a very tough time playing either of these Pittsburgh receivers today at almost the same price as Collins and Pittman. I'd way rather Collins and Pittman. Maybe Pickens just because he can like crank off a 50-yard TD at any point. But for me, it's like Collins and Pittman are by far the top guys. And then I want to start going to the Josh Downses and Alec Pierce, who are cheaper over here on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And then tight ends and defense. It's like, yeah, it's the exact same thing. Dalton Schultz is the chalk. Play anybody else to get off of him. Defense, Steelers are the chalk. Ravens are 2. Indiana, the Colts and the Texans will be very low owned. But the same strategies, I'm going with both of these. I want to answer. I got no chills question too. How much Mechie is too much? It really depends on Robert Woods today. He didn't practice all week, but this is also a veteran who, he knows the offense. He knows how to go out there and play. And this is a must-win game for them. So if he plays, I don't think I want to get all that much Mechie because I'm assuming Robert Woods is still going to be out there getting a ton of snaps. Collins will obviously hog all the targets, and Mechie will probably rotate in and out as receiver 3. But if we do get Robert Woods out, they're going to need Mechie out there most of the time as alongside Hutchinson because they're going to be pretty darn undermanned at receiver. So I'll have a lot more interest in Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. If Mechie primarily, but Hutchinson a little bit too. If Robert Woods doesn't play, if Woods is in, I'll still sprinkle them in for GPPs. It's easy to get 10% and be a little bit over the field. But having said that, I don't think I need to get to very much of them.
Yep. Sounds good. Folks, listen, we are approaching lock. TJ, let's see if we can get some questions. Here, Manny says weather is terrible here. Great, Manny. I hope it stays that way. That sounds good to me. Oh, King of Smack says if that's the case, who backs up Gordon? Gordon doesn't have a backup, right? That's probably where Justice Hill comes in. I feel like Melvin Gordon is the guy, but I'm hoping. I've been kind of, like I said, I've been watching. I haven't been able to hear what they're talking about. But I did see Huntley warming up, and obviously I know you said, well, Chief Huntley plays quarterback. Yeah, but I didn't get a chance to see the running backs that were out there in like their walk around, their walk through. Excuse me. So I'm hoping once again it's Melvin Gordon and maybe Justice Hill is kind of the backup. Stephen Pereira. Steve, hey, just give me the dictionary version of your last name. I just want to make sure I pronounce it right. I'm going with Stephen Pereira, but that could absolutely be wrong. And Steve, if that's the case, I am so sorry about that. He's asking for double tight end build on DK. I think if you're getting to something like that, TJ, you must really be stacking up the skill position players everywhere else. I don't think you have.
I wish I could play no tight ends. If I'm being honest, I wish I could play none.
Yeah. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Yeah, good call. I'm not in for the double tight end bill. Alan QQ, Brevin Jordan pivot off of Schultz. Thoughts? I mean, I think in a couple lineups, I think you could pull it off. I think what you're asking for in this lineup, TJ, and you can please give your input. I think you're asking for Brevin Jordan to have 2 or 3 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown, and for Dalton Schultz to have 2 or 3 catches for 30 yards, 40 yards, and no touchdown. I think that's kind of what you're looking at there. All right, are those your thoughts, TJ?
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, we've got Geek Hippie. He says use 3 running backs today. TJ, let's kick that one over to you.
Geek Hippie, I'm just going to say you should probably go over and follow agentsofandom.com on YouTube and wherever you get your socials, because that sounds like something you would like, my friend. But in addition to that, yeah, I'm using 3. So it depends for me. It depends who my quarterback is. If I'm using Tyler Huntley or Mason Rudolph, I actually want to use 4 wide receivers because I want to still make sure I'm getting Michael Pittman and Nico Collins in there because they're priorities for me. And so say I'm using Mason Rudolph. What I would probably try and do is I'd probably try and see if I could play, especially on DraftKings, Rudolph, Collins, Pittman, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, and George Pickens. That'd be how I'd want to do it. So in that case, I'd only have 2 running backs. And it'd probably be a similar strategy for if I did Tyler Huntley. Maybe not, because you don't need to stack up Huntley as much. But Huntley still, I want to make sure I'm getting Collins and Pittman. And so if I'm stacking him up with 2 of his receivers and I'm playing 4 receivers, then again, it would only be 2. But any lineup that I'm playing CJ Stroud or Gardner Minshew, because it's much easier to fit in Pittman and Collins because there's correlation there, then I'll be playing 3 running backs.
Gotcha. TJ, let me plug this in because I think it looks like Carolina guy was asking, what's my strategy? TJ, I don't think I covered this. So Carolina guy, I want to thank you for reminding me that this is something I needed to go over. This is FanDuel, but I think it's applicable to both sides. TJ, I don't know, even on this small slate, I don't know if we see, and we will see some, but I don't think it's going to be the chalk build. I don't think we see Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren in the same lineup, like exclusively. That's kind of one of my strategies that I'm incorporating exclusively for this slate, CJ. I'm going to load up on the Houston, Indiana passing game, but I want all of the Steelers running game, and I do mean all. So that's something that I'm doing that maybe others aren't. TJ, what are your any thoughts about that?
Sorry, I just saw a Ravens starting offense in pregame warmups from a Baltimore beat writer here. Yes. And apparently it's Huntley, Justice Hill, Tylan Wallace, Laquan Treadwell, and Isaiah Likely. Sense. So it's Likely and Hill in there, but with the backup receivers.
Yeah, no, but the Tylan Wallace, Treadwell makes plenty of sense. I didn't expect Likely, but you know what, though? I still think Charlie Kohler, if you're...
Yeah, like how long does that stay there, right?
Yeah,
how long do they stay as the... Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to keep all these guys in the whole game, TJ, for what it's worth. Like, Isaiah Likely is a big part of their offense. Like, he's a playoff piece.
The thing is, though, is like if he plays the first half and scores a touchdown, all of a sudden that may make him a great GPP play.
I get it. I totally get it. We'll see.
Interesting. It's interesting for sure.
But the Tylan Wallace and Treadwell didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for what it works. For what it's worth. I expected those guys to get some burn today. So yeah, there you have it. But the thing is about the Steelers need to win. So I think the Steelers are going to try to win. And they will we'll see how this goes. I'm hoping they just get the ground game running and just stick with it. And but yeah, Carolina guy, hopefully I answered your question. If once again, I'll reiterate my strategy is getting all of the Steelers running game with Harris and Warren, and then loading up on the Houston, Indiana passing game. That is what I want to do today to hopefully submit some tournament winnings. All right, folks, we are a minute from lock.
We're actually 16 minutes from lock. It's 3:30 lock.
Oh yes. Oh God. Thank you, TJ.
No worries.
I don't know why I've been sitting here thinking 4:15 the whole time. All right, TJ, let's go over some Showdown.
Let's do it. Start with the first game.
Showdown. Yeah, let's start with the first game because we can always bump a little bit if we need to for the next game. In terms of Showdown, I still have the same strategy. I want to I still want to attack the Steelers rushing game. And but I do like the Steelers defense quite a good bit on Showdown, TJ. How are you feeling about just the overall strategy for the Pittsburgh-Baltimore Showdown? I'm so sorry about that, Doug. I didn't mean to have you panicking, brother. My bad.
You're just ready. You're ready to have clock management and calling timeouts from that basketball game you had this morning, Chief. Like you're still on edge, thinking that there's not much time left on the clock.
Yeah, listen, that's where I am right now, man. Oh, what a game! What a game! We did win the game, by the way, folks. But I told TJ earlier, man, I had to really manage the clock down the stretch there to try to help us pull out that W. And listen, those girls fought so hard. I was so proud of them for just continuing to fight all the way to the end of the clock, man. And we were able to pull it off. So kudos to those guys. They played a phenomenal basketball game. All right, TJ, Showdown. Once again, I still want all of the Steelers rushing game. I like the Steelers defense here. How are we feeling about kickers? Let's go with kickers because, once again, we've got some precipitation in this game. How much do you think it's going to slow down the kicking game?
So I don't know, because we have these really, really big wins, right? Like Roth was saying a potential like 35, 40K gust of wins.
Yeah.
And so
I sure hope so, Matt. I'd love 6-3 in this game. Sorry, TJ, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I would too.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And like if we end up getting that, I think like a kicker captain would end up being potentially optimal, but wind should be around 10 to 15 miles per hour sustained with gusts to 25, 30 miles per hour. So I don't know if that's going to be a crosswind, if that's facing like directly into one of the end zones. Because if it is, like, even though the time that they're going to be able to kick any field goals further than 30 yards, I still just kind of feel like, if it opens up the multiple 50 and 60-yard field goals in those other quarters in a low-scoring game, they could end up being optimal. And so I am getting to a lot of the kickers in flex, but as we can see here in the if we sort by percentage owned for the captain position, Jaylen Warren is first just because he's stupidly cheap. I think that makes sense. Pickens is second because he's been lighting it up lately. Huntley third, Rudolph fourth, Najee Harris 5. All of this makes sense to me. The ones that I think, like, again, when we're wanting to do something spicy and get real different in GPPs, the ones that stand out the most to me is just I want to leave a buttload of salary on the table, and I want to play Boswell, Tucker, or the Ravens defense in the captain. All 2.5% projected owned or lower. Maybe even some Melvin Gordon here. It does really seem like when you look at these sets of lineups here, like the percentage, the ownership percentages, most people really seem like they're building towards a heavy Steelers lineup, maybe even a Steelers onslaught lineup. And if that's the case, give me the opposite. Let me load up on the Ravens.
Yeah, and look, here's why I think they're doing it too, TJ. The Ravens are more likely to have less pieces out of the game, right? I mean, or more pieces out of the game, or more likely to have more pieces out of the game. So they're sitting a lot of their main guys to hold them for the playoffs. And so I think what the field is doing, which I don't necessarily disagree, it's just you have to think about it from a game theory perspective, is they're saying, hey, if the Steelers are going to be playing their real defense and Baltimore is going to be playing maybe a part of their defense and not their whole package, then the Steelers defense and the Steelers should be in control of this game. They should be able to limit the Baltimore offense, so forth and so on. I think that's how people are approaching it. And I'm with you, TJ. If that's the case, then we do need to be looking at this slight. When I say opposite, I don't mean we have to go all completely out. But just by getting rid of probably Rudolph and playing Huntley and Hill, you're automatically getting, or Huntley and Melvin Gordon, and then running the Steelers back, you're automatically getting, some interesting and unique things, because I don't think that's how the field wants to approach this slate in general.
Conscious Machine wants to know, should I play Bateman or Aguilar now? What's your format? If I'm choosing one of the other, I'm choosing Bateman, but I do think all signs are pointing towards Wallace and Treadwell being the two main receivers today, and not Bateman or Aguilar.
Yeah. I would agree with that 100%. 100%.
And for what it's worth, like if they are going to throw Likely out there for the start of the game and then just not put him back in later, his odds to be the first touchdown scorer are really good. I don't mind taking a stab at that. Of just like Likely scores the first touchdown on the first and second drive, and then he doesn't play the rest of the game. He's like, I think he's 17-1 on DraftKings right now, like on the DraftKings Sportsbook. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's when you could probably take a nice look at, TJ. That's when you can take a nice look at. All right. Do we have any more questions? I don't see anything in the live stream. Let me make sure it's nothing in the live stream chat. I didn't see anything, but I want to make sure I was in the right spot for that. And
we got one more on YouTube. Doug asking about how do you feel about 100% Nico and Pittman and MME for the reason, like the purpose of you get late swap equity. I like it. I have 100% Bateman and 100% Pittman. Sorry, 100% Pittman and Nico Collins today each. 100%, all of them. I set a rule in lineup HQ that I would want 2 to 3 Jonathan Taylor, Nico Collins, Michael Pittman in every lineup. And it just ended up being Michael Pittman and Nico Collins in every lineup. So yeah, I like that quite a bit.
That's probably the right strategy for this slate, TJ. Definitely get it. I mean, because those guys should carry most of the passing work here in this game. I think my only difference is I'm probably a lot higher on Josh Downs than the field today. I know I've said that a couple of times, but where the field's a little bit lower, I still love Pittman. I'm perfectly fine with Stroud, Collins, Pittman, Downs, and then Minshew, Collins, Pittman. I'm fine with either of those combinations. And you're probably going to see a lot of that today anyway, TJ. But I still think that's the right call.
All right, here's my question to you then. One of the Steelers running backs or Downs in a Minshew stack?
I'm going Downs. Once again, TJ, Downs is kind of my borderline all-in guy today, outside of the big guns.
All right, I'm with you, Chief. Let's do it. My only player in my single entry from that first game now is the Ravens defense.
Hey, and guess what? If that game shoots out or puts up points like we think, and really, TJ, really what we need. So here's the thing. If you're building with just the last game in mind, basically what you need, TJ, you just need the Ravens game to fail. Basically what you're saying is, hey, nobody really do anything. Like, just keep running the ball. We get 1 or 2 field goals. This game ends 6-3. Like Matt said, let's just get us a nice 6-3 victory for the Steelers. And TJ, if that happens, the Steelers automatically going to have 6 to 7 fantasy points just because the score is low. And that's incredible. So if this game fails or doesn't give us a lot of production like we hope, TJ, outside of the running game, then you'll be sitting pretty, sir. You'll be sitting pretty. Yep.
Yeah, my biggest worry is like not Najee Harris or Jalen Warren scoring a touchdown or 2, and then Downs being a little below them. But yeah, I like it. That's Stephen Pereira asking, can you fade everyone except the defenses in the first game? That's what I'm doing in my main lineup. Baltimore defense is my only player in that first game, and I'm just loading up on the second one. JR asking FanDuel must-haves. Let us know your format, JR. Are you playing like double ups and 50-50s? Are you playing a large field tournament, a single entry? Without any specifications, I think my must-haves would be Nico Collins and Michael Pittman. Yeah. But it does depend on your quarterback, who's in the rest of your lineup. I would probably prioritize, going with Pittman and without seeing everything, I would prioritize Pittman and Collins at the receiver position, and then maybe some of the cheaper running backs like a Jalen Warren, specifically on FanDuel, just because he's so much cheaper than Najee Harris and maybe a Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. Love that call. I think we are good. Folks, please, if you have questions, drop those things in there, man. We are approaching lock. Actually, FanDuel, we've got Aguilar or Mechie. I hate it.
I'm going Mechie.
I'm going Mechie too. TJ, I don't see. I hope the weather stays the way it's supposed to stay, and I think the weather will help to limit the passing game here, and that's how I'm playing. I think the weather helps to limit it enough. So I'm absolutely with you. I love Mechie. Good question, Davies. Good question. Scott Davies, to be exact. Just waiting on more questions, folks. And if
you got anything in the props and pick'em package streets people can get in before we get out of here?
I put a lot in the prop shop. So, folks, if you want to know, I'm pretty much on a fair amount of unders for this game. So, in terms of Rudolph pass attempts, I was able to get that one at 18 and 19 and a half. Less than that. That's completions. I'm sorry, completions. At attempts, I was able to get him at 29 and a half. Want less than that. In terms of rushing attempts, we got Najee Harris at 15.5. I was able to get him at more than that. Jaylen Warren, we had him at 8.5 rushing attempts. I was able to get him at more than that projection. I actually took the under on receptions, and this one is probably the one that doesn't feel as great. I took less than 3.5 receptions for Pickens and Deontay Johnson, hoping that they just don't throw the ball enough to get them the volume that they would need. Someone in the prop shop, I think it was S-Bay Chiefs, I think it was. He was just saying, well, hey, what about the short dump offs because of the weather? And what I'm hoping is, TJ, they just commit to the running game and they're able to get going. And Rudolph doesn't have to throw the ball as much. But I did split those in some of the 6 picks and stuff like that. Josh Downs, I was able to get him from 37.5 to 39.5 receiving yards. I want more than that projection. I also got Devin Singletary at 15.5 rushing attempts, TJ, and I took more than that one as well. Devin Singletary, they committed to giving him the rock, so I've taken more than that. I also took Dameon Pierce, even though he's sort of phased out of the offense, 13.5 rushing yards on Prize Picks, TJ. I took more than that projection there. And I think I took Tyler Huntley less than his passing yards in one card. I think I was able to get it about 174.5. I think I took less than that projection in one of them. And I'm trying to think about what else I would have had from today. But most of my exposure to this game or these games today are the unders in the Steelers-Baltimore game here with the weather. I also took Allen Robinson the second less than 15.5 receiving yards in a couple cards. And I also have CJ Stroud more than 21.5 completions. So there you have it, folks. I know I kind of put a lot in there, but those are some of the things I have going on today in the props and pick'em streets.
I was gonna be honest. I was just trying to bait you for the ad read, the props and pick'em ad read.
Oh man, folks! I usually don't miss those cues, and I just totally missed it. Man, I'm so sad TJ had to give me this, but folks, listen, if you're not part of our props and pick'em package, we want you to get on board, okay? The experts here with the projections team take our premium stats, comb through the market for any inefficiency. Using our model, you can easily see when lines are off, where to find them, and how the likely prop will hit based on our tool. Check the link in our description for more info. And for those of you that were playing Showdown, especially on this first slate, please head on over to SimLab to generate those DFS lineups through the power of simulation. It combines data from every aspect of the slate to turn out lineups that match your preferences. In just a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built, correlated lineups ready to go for whatever contest type you're playing. Be sure to check out the link in the description for more info. And if you're already a Combo Premium subscriber or NFL Premium, you already have access to the NFL SimLabs tool. Folks, it's been my pleasure to join you on the first batch of Saturday games for the new year. I'm Chief. That's TJ. This has been the Pre-Lock Show. We will see you back here in the 6 o'clock area for NBA Crunch Time. Folks, we'll see you then.